don't know if there's gonna be a lot of people in here, but people will watch on the playback if they aren't watching it right now. So. How we doing, everybody? How we doing? All right, I can see all your comments. Well, probably won't be a lot of comments. Probably won't be a lot of people in general, but I do just want to. I don't mind streaming. Let out some of my thoughts on what's going on right now with the pattern, the tomorrow snow, which won't take long, and all this won't take long in general. So, y'all stay. This will be a quick one, I promise. So, I will, a couple more people filter in, and let's get going now. All right. I said a couple more people filter in. We lost a couple. It is what it is. Okay. So, basically, what we have here is here's tomorrow morning, right? Not a ton of upper level energy to work with. Our southeast ridge is really kicking into gear, and we're working along the boundary line. So we have this big boundary set up here between our upper level energy here and our southeast ridge here. So what we got in between here, we have this boundary with this flow, right? This big a time, or not, I don't know, big time, but big, pretty solidly sized. Is that a good term to use? Upper level low here. And we're pulling in moisture here, and we're pulling in moisture, right? But along this, it's a little disorganized. So we're pulling in moisture across Mexico along this boundary line that's set up here across the central and southern portions of the United States. And then this is moving across. So this boundary line is connected here in, right, here's our cold air. Here's our cold air. That's clashing down, right? And then along, we have here's our warm source right here, big time southeast ridge. And we're also tapping into a little bit of the Pacific moisture. This is our moisture source right here along this boundary line. So we have a little bit of front setting up along where these colder temperatures here. And what's going to be happening, we're going to be filtering in down. Cold air is going to be pushing south, and along that, just on the other side, we're going to be pushing, snow across, these regions tomorrow morning. So it's pretty simple setup, pretty self-explanatory. Not really a super high ceiling, not really a ridiculous floor either. So some people may not see a lot of snow and they feel like white rain, but some people will get snow for sure. But the problem is more I'm concerned about is the commute, to be honest, more than anything else. Just play here, and we're working with. There's not a ton of upper level energy, but there is a good amount of mid level and low level energy. You can see here at 700, and still not a ton of mid level energy, honestly, either. Here at 700, you can see most of it doesn't come through until 7, 8, 9. So I think it could be a 4 to, for most people, it'd be a 3 to at max 6 hour period of moderate snow to more light to moderate snow. Maybe borderline heavy, like for brief moments under some banding, but no, there won't be any, inch per hour rates tomorrow for the whole hour. That won't be happening. We can see it's a lot more low level energy, to be honest. And this is what we're tapping into for our snow. This is how we're getting our snow. And you can see here along the boundary, and we have that snow, right? This is at 850. Right here. Here's our low level energy we're working with, and this is going to bring down precipitation tomorrow. And we can check here on radar. Here's the NAM. It's not as aggressive as the HR, but definitely present. And you can see an 850. So NAM may be underdoing it a little bit, or I'm struggling with the precip just a little bit. And you can see a weak area of low pressure to form too. Off the coast of Maine, weak 10, 15, 10, 15, pressure, just off the coast of Maine. So, a weak low pressure system to form tomorrow. And then you will see on temps, we'll have some colder temperatures rush in from the south. You can see we won't get many people won't get above freezing tomorrow across interior, especially interior southern New England, and just across New England in general. And we'll get pretty cold tomorrow night. We'll get down into the low 20s and teens, and then if you live in New York City, maybe you only get down to the upper 20s. Along the coast, you only get into the upper 20s. You can see it's not going to get very, very warm. So our cold air kind of gets set into place, and then maybe we watch out for a system after that, and then our cold air comes filtering, rushing in on the backside as you get this big time PV load to work in. That's just a little breakdown of what's in store for just the next couple of days before we really start talking about that cold air. And HRR is a little bit more enthusiastic for this. It's actually been gaining more and more enthusiasm. Actually, last one was a little bit more enthusiastic, or no, it wasn't. Here, right? Some good, potentially moderate precipitation here. And we're picking up soundings. The one thing I didn't like about some of these soundings were a little dry at the top of our dendritic growth zone. So you can see we're at -20, so we're a little bit dry. This gap here in precipitation. So it's possible it may not be the best. It may not be some of the best growth, but snow growth, but what we make up, what we lack in the top of our dendritic growth zone, we may make up in the rest, because -20. Here's -10, right? Here's our dendritic growth zone. You can see really well saturated in the bottom half of our dendritic growth zone, and well saturated all the way down to the surface and pretty warm. So what we lack here in saturation towards the mid and the upper levels, we may be able to make up in terms of low level saturation and decent lift throughout the mid levels as well. You can see we have some actually decent forcing all the way through the upper levels. There's actually some forcing here from the upper levels, but more present in the mid and lower levels. Obviously, we have more forcing going on around 7 to 850, 7 to 850, where we really have a good amount of forcing and lift. Oh no, come back. Going on. 7 a.m. So we'll take another sounding. We'll go Connecticut, closer to coastal Connecticut, and that's not really a good snow growth sounding right there. So that's just snowflakes and not really much accumulating. You get a few hours of it, you'll pick up some accumulation. Hudson Valley, they'll get on it, in it tomorrow too. A little bit. This is actually a little bit better. Forcing, there's some better forcing here. You can see our omega over -1, but not quite in the dendritic growth zone. So our dendritic growth zone right here. So get a little bit, but some decent forcing here in our dendritic growth zone. So there could be some accumulations tomorrow. Would favor the interior. The interior places that are able to get into the banding for the longest are pretty clearly going to be favored. The question is, how long? That's not great. Mid-level lift. See on the edge here. This is a decent sounding, actually. It looks lighter on the back edge. The back end may still have some better snow growth, so I may be able to still get some decent snow. But -0.5, not quite -1, but some decent forcing. You can see here omega in our dendritic growth zone, and the dendritic growth zone at this point is a little bit lower, a little bit colder. And we're still pretty well saturated from 600 millibars down, so much better saturated. This is actually better snow, even though the radar looks better. The simulated radar, this is a better sounding for snow in my opinion. So that could be a good hour of, just under, maybe 0.3, 0.4. 0.3 to 0.5 inches per hour, depending on how long you can get it to last for, but maybe only an hour. But, coating to an inch for most people tomorrow is not a major event whatsoever, but still an opportunity to mess up your morning commute. So I really, if you are, I don't know, not too many people who are getting up early are probably staying up this late, but if you are and you just can't sleep, you're in the stream right now, I highly recommend that you do not that you try at your best try to avoid being on the roads. This 4 to 8 a.m. across southern New England and Hudson Valley. I would recommend avoiding the roads if you can, and if you have to go, you have to go for your job or school, whatever. I would recommend that you give yourself some extra time because this is actually, believe it or not, this is the time frame where accidents happen more. Because what happens is people think only a little bit of snow, we should be good. And then a little bit of snow falls, it makes the roads extra slippery. People still drive the same way they regularly do, and it makes it for a disaster. Not only that, it's the snow falling that that lowers visibility too. So it doesn't matter how good snow growth is in terms of accumulation, regardless if the roads are wet or not. But if your visibility is lower and people weren't really prepared or expecting a lot, that's how you get troublesome scenarios. And so it's these little nuisance events that actually can cause a lot of problems many times. So there's going to be some problems for sure when tomorrow morning commute. I just got this feeling that people really barely anybody talked about. I'll say myself, I didn't even pick up on this until today. I was so busy looking at the cold for next weekend. I like looking at the big stuff, the big events. So my attention immediately draws to there. So this won't be a lot, but it will be enough to impact. People's commutes tomorrow morning for sure. So I would be advised, across Pennsylvania, northern Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island. All those regions should be on the lookout tomorrow for some accumulation. We'll see if New York City has a chance to get measurable accumulation. I doubt it. I doubt it, but it's possible. It's possible New York City gets a tenth or 2/10 of an inch. It's possible. RGM, let's see, not bad too. RGM has a good 4 or 5 hours across a lot of people first in southern New England to get some snow. In Maine too, it picks off the low pressure system, so Nova Scotia gets a decent snowstorm. Actually, they can get a few inches of snow, minor snowstorm. But yeah, that's basically. I think that pretty much covers tomorrow morning. Now let's take a look at the upcoming pattern and in particular the cold. I don't know if anybody is watching or on Twitter that really wants to watch my stuff right now, but I'll alert them just in case they left because they got bored of what I was talking about with tomorrow morning. So yeah, but we are going to have some record-breaking cold for sure, or near record-breaking. I don't want to say for sure record-breaking, but near record-breaking is very much possible tomorrow, or not tomorrow, this weekend. So I got a lot of complaints from me tweeting about, it's like I tweeted, it was different. It wasn't this tweet. It was, a day or two ago, and it was, man, it was this one right here. Now this is, potential highs for next weekend are absurd, and a lot of people didn't like it. They didn't like it. They said, well, it's not, it's gonna be gone, and it won't last forever. It's no snow, no snow. It's winter. What do you expect? I mean, seriously, can I not tweet anything now without being bombarded with pissed off middle-aged people or whatever? Doesn't matter what your age is, but I mean, it's gonna be cold and it's gonna be important. It's gonna impact people's lives, and I think it's worth talking about. So I don't really see the problem with going into depth when it comes to this stuff, but it is going to be ridiculously cold. and I think it's worth talking about very much. So what we got going on is here we have this big lobe. We got a polar vortex stretching event. So we'll zoom out to North America for you guys. And man, I already lost a couple of you. I promise. I'm somewhat interesting. At least I think so. So here's our polar vortex. Right now, we're really getting this lobe here. Really, swing down. This lobe of the polar vortex here. We're not going to get a full major um, south-southwest event. I think that's what it's called, right? SSW. But we are going to get this to swing through this lobe of the polar vortex, and this is coming directly from the Arctic. So we're going to get some really, really cold air, and we're just missing out on a storm here too. Someone's going to get Canada and Greenland are going to get a hell of a storm. Let me tell you. I mean, that is a ridiculous storm. Really good cold air to work with. Just missing out. Some people could watch out for this in the Mid-Atlantic and coastal Northeast. Still could keep an eye on that one, I guess. But we would really need to back up this flow a lot. We would really need to back this up, like too much for where we are. I guess this is volatile, so we still haven't seen. So the thing about the polar vortex, it is pretty volatile, and it still hasn't gotten out of its position right currently, and so we'll see how exactly this transpires. But regardless, it is going to get really cold. It's somewhere, it's this low off, somewhere it's going to get. Somewhere in this direction, we're going to see this low break off directly from our Arctic pole, North Pole, and it is going to come down. It's going to produce some frigid temperatures. I mean, this is as much Arctic air you can get. We're tapping into it. So this is again a minor disruption of the polar vortex, not a major one, and it's quick. It's going to be in and out. This low of the polar vortex. It's going to be in and out, but we're going to have a pretty weak polar vortex, so we're going to be tapping into Arctic air for storms for a little bit potentially. Exactly where it shoots down after, it's no guarantee. It is no guarantee in the long range pattern. So we can try to figure out as much as we can. There will still be opportunities for snow after this. It's not just a direct heat wave after this. So anybody that tells you that, and again, that's possible. This maybe, but it's not very direct and clear and obvious exactly how that's going to turn out. This disruption though is going to favor more colder air on the other side of the world. It's going to favor this side a little bit more of the world rather than this side, which stinks. But it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. Just have to see how it happens and evaluate from there. Again, these are volatile. So anybody that thinks they have their hand on the upcoming pattern, they think they have their fingers all over it. They think they know what they're talking about. That's great. That's great. All those 200-300 hour posts you're seeing, they don't mean a damn thing right now. They really don't. Until it becomes clear exactly how this lobe of the polar vortex comes down, there's going to be some uncertainties in the upcoming pattern. I'll be very clear on that. Now, I say in between, there's probably going to be a warmer period in between, this disruption of the polar vortex and a next one that occurs. Because what happens is we weaken the polar vortex to the point we have a disruption, so now it has to re-strengthen itself back up. Right? Imagine you're playing a sports game and you're a single player and you have stamina. Right, so if we work up the stamina all the way, we start with the stamina up here. Well, it had to work its way up, had to earn that stamina. The polar vortex did, so it strengthened its way up, and then, as soon as you use up all the stamina, or in this case, gets disrupted, the polar vortex, the stamina goes down. All right, boom, boom, that stamina goes down. the next time it tries to weaken. So we're much weaker. It may not be the greatest analogy, but we're going to go with it. It is what it is. So now the next time we see, a big dynamic storm potentially ride up, regardless if it's a cutter or if it's a Atlantic Canada storm that rides up, and we get another disruption, it's going to be much easier to tap into that cold air. It's not going to be locked up, so it'll be easier to get disruptions once we get into late February and March. So the winter is not done yet. I don't care I don't care how many of WX Twitter people want to, just come together and sulk over the fact that winter hasn't produced in their backyard. I don't care. The winter is not over. That's not me being in denial. That's me having uncertainty about how it's going to play out, and me also using past knowledge to know that really one big storm is all it takes to make a lot of people happy. And that's the reality. One big storm is what it takes to get a lot of people their annual snowfall. So I've been through enough bad winters to know that it's not always. It doesn't always look like it's going to happen, and then it does. So it can flip real fast. I'm telling you, it can flip real fast. It didn't even look like we were going to get pretty much a lot of snow out of, the previous couple of weeks. And look at that. We got had that stretch of, I think a lot of people saw, like in New England, saw like 6 to 12 inches of snow in that week, time frame, which is ridiculous. But listen, hey, it's better than no snow. So I would just recommend being patient and not getting too worked up, because there's plenty still left in store when it comes to the winter. Again, I can't guarantee you anything. I can't promise you it's going to be full load of snow, but I can promise you that the winter is not over yet. I can't guarantee that if you're going to see snow or not. I just can't. But it doesn't mean you're not going to. Now, does it look like we're going to get some big snowstorm upcoming in the next couple of weeks? I don't know about that. This is a chance. This is a chance. And again, we talk about volatility of the polar vortex. This is where it is. Right, we talk about it's favoring the other side of the world more. We can get this. It's favoring Asia a little bit more in this northern Asia, northern Europe a little bit more than it is our side of the world. If again a little bit different scenario where if we get our polar vortex, this disruption to set up just a little bit further south, right, with this upcoming storm, and we layer this cold air further down. We're going to get better stream interaction with this system. We're going to set up an opportunity for a favorable snowstorm, a really favorable snowstorm, which is, you saw some of me joking around with posts a few days ago. This is what it was, figuring out exactly what's happening in the polar vortex. And it's volatile. So this can really impact how the upcoming pattern is going to turn out. And, I guess technically impact how the rest of the winter is going to turn out, because every piece means more. And you can see all the different runs with the polar vortex, right? This is basically all Arctic air from our polar vortex disruption. It's extending all the way around. And so if we play all these different runs, you can see the variations in each run. Some runs further, more stream interaction, some less, with that system. And some we only digs to here, and others it digs all the way down to here. Just different variations of all these all these different model runs throughout the cycles. And this is the same model, but different runs. There's plenty of uncertainty, and we're not lacking that when it comes to the upcoming pattern. Again, I'm not sure exactly. It's been fairly consistent though. When it comes to location, we have a pretty good idea of the exact location where this lobe is dropping in somewhere around here. And regardless of around here where it drops, it's going to be able to produce below zero temperatures for many in the Northeast, and also below zero wind chills, way below zero wind chills, potentially minus 20, minus 30, minus 40, minus 50 degrees below zero for a lot of people in northern New England. It is going to be very cold, near record-breaking cold, if not record-breaking cold for some, depending on how far this digs, this lobe. The farther this digs, the more closer we're tapping into that Arctic air. And it's going to be 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts Friday night into overnight or into early morning Saturday morning. So it is going to be windy, and that is why those wind chill values are going to be so high. Potentially temps minus 10 or minus 15 for many across the Northeast. Most will be minus 5 to minus 15 below zero likely for this whole area. It across widespread pretty much across the Northeast. New York City could get below zero potentially. It is going to be super cold, super. Better I get only an hour on here, so we can get 3 hours on here. Looks like GFS was a tad warmer on this run at least. But still, I mean, was that? Still super cold. Still super cold on. I mean, that's a big difference actually from last run. So I will say that's a pretty big difference. That's significant difference actually. So I guess there's still some volatility when it comes to this upcoming forecast. But take a look at the euro. Euro still going pretty much all in. Yeah, euro not backing down. That's for sure. These are the lows. Euro backed off a little bit too. So whatever model data was coming in for the 0Z guidance, wanted to make it just a little bit warmer. I'm sure many won't oppose. But I mean, just cold. I mean, I can't say it enough. I would leave water running in your house. Just drop the drops, just little droplets from your sink. I highly recommend it so you can avoid pipes bursting, and it won't have to be for very long. You go to sleep Friday night, you leave, make sure your drain's not clogged in your sink, but I leave your sink running. Just little droplets so you can prevent your pipes from bursting, so you get a constant flow of water. You might want to check in on your car battery in the morning too. Try to, if you do have a garage, park your car in the garage if you don't usually already. Just be sure to take some extra precautions. If you are driving, make sure you have enough food and water. If your car breaks down, make sure you have enough food and water and warmth, more importantly, because it's going to be super cold. Be extra safe, because this is not something you want to mess around with. It's very cold. Anybody living here is going to be at the highest risk, and then it will get very cold across widespread here too, across New York City and into the Mid-Atlantic, it will be very cold as well. Potentially wind chills -10, for some people even -20, below zero. Take a look here. Some of these wind chills is going to be frigid. Can't underestimate it enough. I mean, -30, -40 potentially at the max for some people. I mean, just ridiculous. Below, -10, near -10 wind chills in New York City. Basically, everybody in the purple is below zero wind chills. It's absurd to begin with. Frigid stuff, man. So was it Mount Candith or where? I forget how you pronounce Candith. I forget how you pronounce it, but they were at -79 in the National Weather Service, -80 degrees below zero. That's just ridiculous. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, it is going to be cold because take a look at the wind gusts. Take a look at the wind gusts coming through to make some ridiculous wind chills. All right, 30, 40, even close to 50 mile per hour. You have to watch out maybe for some scattered power outages. Power outages in this cold would not be good. Not be good. I mean, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts, widespread, 25 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, widespread across the Northeast, and then 50 miles per hour, even maybe too. Usually overdone a little bit, but if anybody gets 50 mile per hour wind gusts and lose power with this kind of cold, it's just not good. So I recommend making sure you cut your tree limbs too. If you're at any risk to fall on power lines or anything, I would take double precautions, extra precautions to make sure you don't have to be in a worst case scenario with this kind of cold weather. I can't emphasize enough, it's super dangerous to be out in this for more than a few minutes. You can very much get frostbite within 10 minutes. And for other people, maybe 20 minutes in this kind of cold. It is not something to mess around with. It will take 10 to 30 minutes, depending on where you live and how cold you get, for many to get frostbite. So not something you want to mess around with. It is going to get cold. It is going to be windy. It is not something you're going to want to be out more than going into your car. This is not something, you don't walk your dog in this kind of weather. You take your dog out, and your dog just doesn't get to walk that day. It is not safe. It's not safe. Really can't emphasize it enough. Let's see, GFS, what is it looking at for wind gusts? Little lighter. Still 25 to 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts. Looks like Burke's really, actually GFS is more intense for some people, but that depends on where you live. It's not as widespread though, so it's like 25 to 45 widespread mile per hour wind gusts across the region, maybe up to 50, is looking likely too for Friday night into Saturday morning. That is not it. Listen, it is not going to be fun. It is not going to be fun being out in this for a while. I can promise you that. So avoid being out in this for long duration periods at all costs. When it comes to Friday night into Saturday, you do not want to be out in this. Do not want to be out in this for sure. Upcoming pattern in general, Southeast Ridge is the theme. I don't know how much we're going to get it to go away. We get it to go away for a little bit, and that's that period next week. That's why this is, if we can just listen. If we really have, I'm just begging on changes. Is this piece right here. If we can just get this to dig down, we can really tap into cold air. And it's kind of a three-part phase with this system. This is keep an eye on, but not really put any money on with this one. It's kind of a three-part because it's kind of messy. It's kind of not. It's kind of messy. Like there's different, it was almost the southern vort or northern vort and the polar vortex with this, so it's a little bit, it's kind of messy in terms of the pieces on the tape, any real stream interaction until too late. But it's close. It's very close. Back everything up just a little bit and get this down further south. That's the main thing. Get that lobe, the polar vortex, down further south and west, and we can back this up just a little bit more, slow the flow just a little bit more. Us slowing the flow is not going to have to worry about this being a, pull up the coast kind of system and you too far inland into that cold air more. That will solve that problem. So there is a chance with this one, but it's Canadian, a bit different, obviously. Brings the cold air further southwest. Just handles these two pieces a little bit differently. Completely misses the phase with this. We'll see how much that southeast ridge wants to get back into place. Seems like maybe there's a high pressure. Is there a high pressure in place? There is a high pressure in place after for the next potential system. We'll see how much of a southeast ridge we're dealing with at that point. So there could be a couple. We'll keep an eye on this one too. With this kind of southeast ridge, if there is a high backing out that much, may have to favor. But again, all of this changes. This is highly dependent on what exactly happens with our upcoming polar vortex disruption, which is kind of in place already, happening. But this piece right here, how much does this hang back? There's questions that need to be answered still that aren't. You can see a little bit more reserved with the GFS. Gives a little bit less time for the southeast ridge to build in on this run. Southeast ridge is there, but much weaker towards the end of this specific run. So we're still gonna have a lot of answers that need to be, or a lot of questions that need to be answered, I'd rather say. So I would not I would favor, listen, when it comes, I think once we get to mid-February, I would favor warmer than average. But I'm not exactly still sure where we stand on the snowfall, because remember, snowfall you don't need to be below average in early February to get snowfall. You can be warmer than average throughout most of the period and still get snow. So that's not always a necessary ingredient to get long duration cold. It helps a lot of times, sure, helps, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary whatsoever. We've had opportunities this winter too. We've just missed out on them just a little bit too much, and that's been the biggest problem. Let's see. Check in on what the Euro's doing for this system early next week. That's not close to anything else, really. It is, but it isn't. Euro is miles off from the GFS. I guess it's not it's different though. It's much weaker. Euro is a lot weaker with everything. GFS isn't that far off, I'm telling you. It's not super far off. But there you go. CFS wants to kick up something. That's great news. It's not like the CFS has ever been wrong before. or it's definitely not like it's a long range forecasting model either. All right. I think we went through pretty much everything that needs to be talked about. I don't love the pattern coming up, but again, a lot of it is controlled by the upcoming polar vortex, or I guess current polar vortex disruption that's occurring. It's a minor disruption, but it is a disruption. So it is going to be producing some ridiculously cold air. So that will be fun to track, not fun to be in. That's for sure. It'll be fun to be a part of some history, though, potentially. That would be, I don't mind that part of it. In the wintertime, not many people are hanging out outside regardless. So, but hopefully not too many problems. Hopefully nobody loses power because it will be pretty windy Friday night. So do whatever you got to do to prepare, generator, whatever you need to stay warm in case of a power outage Friday night, Saturday morning. But again, a lot of it's riding on this polar vortex disruption. Where exactly do we go from there after? Pattern will become a little bit clearer because a lot of the pattern after that's being dictated. So it's mainly model noise. Anything after 4 or 5 days right now is a lot of model noise. Especially after 7 days, especially anything over a week out is complete model noise, like just complete model noise. So don't get too far invested in people's tweets when it comes to the long range. There's your reliable people, Judah Cohen, Simon Lee are both great when it comes to deciphering what's going on with the polar vortex off the top of my head. Judah posts a blog every week for those that are interested that I tend to retweet or share comments from time to time. But he is very, very smart, knows what he's talking about, studies the polar vortex extensively in long range forecasting for winter. So he knows what he's talking about. So I highly recommend you go to him if you're interested for more knowledge on the upcoming pattern in the polar vortex and what his thoughts are. I do think there could be another chance late February, March. I really do. So I wouldn't give up if we don't produce, if this pattern doesn't produce for the next few weeks, I would not quite give up. Will not quite give up yet. And regardless of how you feel, whatever happens, it's just going to happen. So I hate to break it to you. Whether you want or don't want snow, weather's a fixed pattern. It's a fixed thing. Nothing we can do to change it. But yeah, that's all I got. All right. I promised a shorter stream. We made it shorter. Could have been still went like 45 minutes, but is what it is. If you missed some of it, for anybody just coming in, you can watch it on the playback. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks everybody. Peace.